Recording is on.
Welcome to the DXdao call. The general meeting happens every Thursday. Just a heads up, it's being moved to 1600 UTC for the time being going forward. And this is to kind of help adapt to some of the folks that are involved and tend to join who have their clocks moved and it's very early for them. So we're moving in a little slightly later. And so we typically talk about the product updates as well as the other topics covered in the weekly calls. So just starting off there, I think Omen is what we typically lead off with, and it's an exciting week here with the presidential election in the US and the amount of volume that we've seen. It's record volume, not just on Omen, but other prediction markets as well. So, I mean, really exciting week, big milestones for Omen. I'll kick it off to Geronimo and Caden to kind of give us an update there.
Yes, it was quite an exciting week for Omen in terms of media attention. Quite a few outlets actually just forgot about us, but that's that's what we're used to. But I was quite surprised that a few actually mentioned Omen and were actually positive about the product. So that's great. We reached a $1 million trading volume for the presidential election, which is amazing. A huge milestone. And so, yeah. What else? We planned to release the very big version last week, but a few bugs blocked the release, so we needed to fix those bugs, and we are like on the final stage and testing for the last pull request, which will eliminate all issues, hopefully, and then we will do this big release. And it's quite exciting release because it fixes a lot of stuff which is on the current live version with a strong focus on user experience, look and feel, and will provide us a base to actually like improve in several areas going forward. And yes, that's it.
In terms of the new features, so are these the kind of look and feel issues, or is there something big changing that you're talking about?
No, it's primarily look and feel. Right. That's as far as I like. There are quite a lot of changes, also like usability changes, which makes the product just like way more usable. And once that is done, we can put our focus on actually like improving the product.
So this would like solidify kind of the categorical market, the A and B outcome experience, and then kind of set the platform up to start implementing scalar markets and some of the other things.
Exactly. Like that was like one of the reasons why we needed to make sure Omen is scalable in terms of feature richness. It was designed in the first version to be just like a swapping interface, but prediction markets aren't that easy. You need to include important information like total volume, 24-hour volume, liquidity, all kind of stuff. And now we're kind of prepared to actually also scale up in terms of features. Yesterday we successfully deployed a scalar market via the Omen interface. So it's not far away. Scalar markets will, with good luck, happen in the next upcoming release, hopefully. But on DXtest, we will see it much earlier than we actually expect. And yes, and like we also have like a draft pull request which will eliminate wrapped ETH at some point, so people will just use their Ether to bet on Omen. And that's like that sounds small, but for me as someone who worked with the team who actually deployed the first wrapped ETH contract in Ethereum history. And I always disliked this contract. I always disliked wrapped shit. And getting rid of that is a huge achievement in terms of user experience. So looking forward to actually eliminate wrapped Ether completely from the Omen interface.
There's only one real ETH, so yeah.
But
for now, I guess with ETH2, maybe two real
Geronimo, will both be enabled? Because there are markets and things already with wrapped and people use it, so you have to have both.
Yeah, so the way I see it at some point is that we will have both first. If you pick ETH, it is basically picking wrapped ETH, but it will do everything in the background.
Gotcha.
And once we will also, I think we will remove the wrapped ETH in the creation, the market creation. So we let people get used to actually using Ether, and then at some point actually removing it, not removing, but making sure that the market details view is showing Ether as wrapped Ether markets. So in the background, we will actually always use wrapped ETH, but the user doesn't need to know it.
Uniswap does this, I think, too.
Exactly.
Speaking of wrapping tokens, yeah, both. But speaking of wrapping tokens, so I mean, I think as people probably know, Omen as well as Augur use 1155s, and that makes it a little difficult outside of Omen, the platform itself, because you can't transfer. Wallets don't support this, and make it. It's not that you can't transfer them, but it's difficult with a lot of the popular wallets to do so. And there is a what's it called, a conditional token explorer, right, in the works. That's not a DXdao thing, but Gnosis and Protofire are working on. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, so that's a good point. There's no update in terms of they're currently fleshing out the last issues for release, but seeing Catnip getting traction with such a product where you just have you just use Uniswap interface, put Balancer as a protocol, and then trade those ERC20 tokens. It is a clear signal that why we have ERC 1155, which is the conditional token standard. We need to make sure that anyone, my point is, we are already preparing a move to make sure that people on Omen can create ERC20 tokens out of their outcome tokens, like conditional tokens. So the designs are ready, and it just needs to be implemented, which is great because anyone could put an outcome token onto DXswap. So they just go to Omen, create shares as ERC20 tokens for, let's say, Joe Biden will win market, go to DXswap, propose it to the DXdao to be added on the token list, and then you can actually trade on both products, on DXswap and Omen.
Would the same thing be true on, or could we do it also on a layer 2? Just thinking this could be like an XDAI or even Rails too.
What exactly?
I mean, could we do what you're saying about if the wrapped token, like you were saying with Catnip, where they could create, where someone would be able to create shares like that and create it for a Uniswap experience? I was just thinking if that experience could also be for Rails or XDAI.
So the beauty of XDAI is that everything what we have on mainnet is completely replicable to XDAI. So yeah, I see it as an absolutely necessity to leverage the scalability of XDAI and to make sure that we all those features on mainnet, it's completely identical. Everything on XDAI, the Gnosis Safe contracts are there. Even what I see, XDAI could at some point have more features like the Gnosis protocol integration, having an order book for prediction markets is absolutely necessary as far as I see it. So DXdao version will at some point even like outpace the feature richness on mainnet. That's what I see here. And like what I envision is once someone actually wants to create a market on like ERC20 AMMs like Uniswap or Balancer, they should be able to actually propose the DXdao like the specific wrapper token, which would eliminate the wait for like centralized lists like CoinList, CoinGecko, or Trust Wallet. Like Trust Wallet will not accept those prediction market tokens because they're like too small. They would just say no. So we will enable those features for anyone in the world to propose it to the DXdao. And Catnip is actually doing exactly that. Just like few guys maintaining this AMM where they control what kind of stuff will be traded on. So they just wrap Augur outcomes to Catnip, but we will do exactly that where anyone can actually do the work. So we don't need just it doesn't need to be a centralized group.
Yeah, so the wrapping kind of frees the 1155s to be used on other platforms, which is really cool, like we've seen in Catnip. And the other thing too about, it's interesting from like a competitive landscape, like seeing people buy these presidential outcome tokens on these AMMs that like either are Uniswap or look like Uniswap. And, I think it's cool from a user experience, but I think people have tended to overlook the last few weeks, like what that means from a liquidity provider perspective, where they actually have to be providing, both sides of that liquidity on the yes outcome and the no outcome on the AMM, and it gets to be even more capitally intensive than you would see if you were providing liquidity on Omen. So I think that's an important thing for people to kind of understand.
The cool. Once these election markets settle, and the Omen ones are mainly like December 20th, I think. Hopefully there's a decision by then, right? But a lot of the markets are going to settle in like mid-December. People that did took their position on Omen directly are actually, I think, going to have a really good experience with like redeeming it. People that bought yes and no tokens off of Uniswap may find themselves extremely confused on what they do with their tokens at that point in time. And so Omen settlement is actually a really good experience to what those people are going to have to do, I think.
Yeah, my sense is this stuff is maybe like Catnip's maybe a little overhyped because you get the same AMM experience in Omen and a very clean, end-to-end experience in terms of how to handle the outcome tokens and redeem them.
Like where I see we're already far ahead in terms of making sure we have actually like a proper prediction market. Like this curation is such an underrated feature, which is so powerful because we are already in like this maintenance mode of curating those markets, and which would also like make sure that people, when they use when they actually want to buy when they want to buy a outcome token on DXswap, we can connect to this verification, this curation list, right? So they know it's actually like a valid market. If you go to Catnip, you don't have any fucking clue what are you buying. You don't know who curated it. Maybe it's valid. Let's hope it's valid. And we can leverage that by making sure like we just show the most important part, closing date and title. And if they want to know more, we would just redirect them to the proper prediction market interface, Omen. So they will have access to everything. They can also like, at least what I already prepared, they can also redeem those ERC20 tokens on Omen. So we need to fight against everything, against polymarket scalability solution, against Augur's wannabe ERC20 token, Catnip product. We need to do it everything.
And there's answers to all of this already in the works, right? Like DXdao is a scalability solution for Omen. the conditional token Explorer, I think, is arguably like it's more open and superior to whatever, Augur. They're probably going to use it themselves, right? And yeah, I mean, I think we already have the AMM, so yeah, it's cool. I think a lot of it too comes down to communications, and can we, Chris said here in the chat that catnip and stuff, and a lot of these presidential markets were marketing spend from the VCs and stuff. So a lot of this battle is like on the, just how it's being communicated and publicized.
Yeah, and I think this could be, not to overhype the situation as much, but like I do think we're going to see a lot more interest in prediction markets broadly, and I think there's a couple things lined up for Omen here, as you said, like with scalability, and even like gas has kind of come down a bit, and we haven't even talked about the ETH2 market, which I think is a kind of cool experience that I'm sure a lot of people will go to Omen again, maybe to redeem in that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of wind at our backs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, anything else at Omen? I think it's great that we had a nice in-depth discussion here, especially given the context in this week and the usage. But if there's nothing else, we can move on to Mesa. Cool. Okay, on the Mesa side, Mesa now supports XDAI. You can use it. That's working. You can just switch your network in the UI. I don't know if there's a lot going on in the XDAI chain at this point, but I think it's cool to see that set up and prepared to be used for different things. When Omen goes live, if people want to do IDOs on XDAI or in part on XDAI, then it's ready and available. There's also for those who are in the Keybase, there's actually a link to a test link for a new release that's upcoming. And this is no major changes, but there's like a lot of what I think are nice kind of trader, like user tweaks, like when you're filling in the prices, and now it displays like your fill price, and it also will tell you, it also has some sense of what coins are stable coins, and will favor giving the quote in the stable coin. So like if you're doing like an ETH DAI pit trade and you switch from ETH DAI to DAI ETH, it'll still give you the quote in DAI because it knows that DAI is a stable coin. There's also some nice changes on kind of the orders table. Things that were maybe a little confusing before have been broken out more nicely. So yeah, anybody who's kind of a Mesa power user or just interested, I would encourage to do a little testing on that for us and check that out. Looking forward for that release. Is there anything else? I don't know, Hen, if you have any updates you wanted to give on Mesa, or we could talk a little bit about maybe the IDOs that have been happening. I don't know if Hen's actually here, but I think Fuse actually did their IDO on Mesa. I think roughly at Workwell, they had a little bit of an issue with the OWL token liquidity. So, there needs to be, adequate liquidity for any kind of ring trades that are required and when something's happening on Mesa. And so this is just kind of for, it's not been a problem in the past. I think it's sort of like this checklist item that somehow is overlooked this time, but it's one of the things to look out for is liquidity for any tokens that you expect there to be movement through. OWL is the fee token, so there's always some liquidity needed there.
Yeah, John, sorry I missed you. Yeah, it was really kind of unexpected. I guess from now on we can, theoretically it would be better to also mention it to the teams themselves that the all liquidity is needed, so it's on their mind, and potentially if they want to make sure it happens smoothly, they can do it themselves. But yeah, we also added a lot of all liquidity a bit above the $1 peg, so it's less likely that someone will just buy it, I don't know for what reasons, and then it won't be available for fees. So it should be okay.
Yeah, that was kind of the weird thing in the Fuse sale, right? Is it's kind of unclear why somebody bought up all the OWL liquidity right before the sale.
Yeah, and also after we noticed it and added $10,000 of our liquidity, again someone bought it. So
So it's
really
almost like
feels
it's
like
somebody attacking
someone.
the sale or doing something.
Hoarding Al.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, and then the other thing I think coming up, I see Lorraine's on the call if she wanted to jump in, but PrimeDAO is doing an IDO, I think, in the coming weeks on Mesa as well. And I think Aluna is also preparing.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Lorraine.
Yes. How's it going? It's happening. It's happening. So many calls. Yeah, so PrimeDAO's doing their IDO on the 16th, and they're running it for 2 weeks, trying to make it successful. So we're running a bunch of comms and everything for that. They had mentioned, wondered if DX wanted to come on as a governor, like come on as a whole, like DXdao, D to D, DAO to DAO relations. If anyone was interested in representing DX, I know John comes frequently, but I'm not sure if he comes there as a DX member or a governor.
Yeah, certainly not in any kind of official capacity.
Yeah.
Not sure. I mean, this is something, I mean, if there's, some kind of arrangement that you guys would be interested in or PrimeDAO would be interested in, I think that could be something good to discuss on the the next BizDev call, kind of what that might look like.
That's still on Mondays.
Still on Mondays. Yeah, we're moving things to 1600 UTC, which is 11 a.m. New York. Or
In Unix.
Yeah, or we also are translating it into Unix time for those who see time in seconds, just continually incrementing.
Okay, well, know what time and I can come jump on that call. And then I also have an update with these. I'm kind of running things with Sky for the status and DXdao partnership with Simona.
Nice.
Update there. We met last week and we have the outline done. And basically I was just talking with Sky last night about what we're going to be announcing. So the blog post will be just kind of like a general kind of introductory to DXDAO's mission and Status's mission, and then how both entities have come together to formulate this accessibility in the ecosystem. And then next steps will be like educational content and manuals, and she's going to be sending us screenshots and kind of a video tutorial to add into it. So yeah, if there's any feedback or anything on there, feel free to drop me some info. But yeah, super exciting to work with her. She's very well connected in the space, and she knows what's up with
a lot of people know and like Simona. Maybe while we're talking about it here, we could just give kind of like the 2-line summary of how Status is kind of relevant for DXdao and like what it's useful for those who haven't used it. Maybe Sky could even jump in here.
Yeah, well, a few different things, but Status as a platform and a wallet, stresses privacy and like aims for true decentralization, which is like a parallel to DXdao, which is cool. So their mobile app, which has peer-to-peer chat, it has a crypto wallet built in, and then it has a mobile browser. The mobile browser is, a very a great way to access DXDAO's products through a decentralized manner, such as resolving straight to ENS. So like Omen and Rails and Mesa, the Status browser has the ability to, you don't have to, but it has the ability to resolve directly to the IPFS hosted site that DXdao is hosting, which is a powerful thing, especially if like ETH.link, which is not always super reliable. If that ever goes down, you have an alternative to get to DXDAO's products. And so kind of the overall ethos of the two projects in tandem with building both entities, collectives and entities, have been building and stress building things in a as decentralized way as possible, which is what DXdao strives for, and Status has been doing that as well. So sharing those techniques and best methods that each group has been using, also with the entire ecosystem, helps the entire blockchain and DeFi ecosystem actually like achieve the goals that we're aiming for, but in a more decentralized way. Because a lot of projects out there just default to lots of centralized connection points to accomplish what they need, and so sharing those that knowledge with the entire space is pretty, I think, will help a lot of projects in general and achieve our goals.
Yeah, and she was mentioning just also it's the only mobile app that you can actually access DXdao at your fingertips via mobile. So that's going to be in the blog post as well.
And that's super relevant for DXdao products that will be going live on DXdao.
Yeah. So
I think also too, this is a good. Oh, sorry, Larry.
No, go ahead.
I also think this Status talk to is a good segue into Rails, right? Which is also generally usable on mobile. Am I right about that, Sky or Federico?
Yeah, there's a recent mishap because we just learned about it, but the entire the Ethereum ecosystem is changing the method of like Web3 injection into dApps, and so as the space moves over the next couple months, you're going to see MetaMask and other Web3 browsers basically detect I don't know the right terminology, but the Web3 like injection or how to access the dApp in a different manner than what's been happening in the past. I guess it's a more flexible, open way to do it and less like in your face. But there are some technical changes that dApps are going to have to make to accommodate for that. So Rails right now works well with like on your computer and stuff, and in some mobile browsers, but we might have to make a couple updates to allow it to work with this thing called Windows Ethereum, which I don't know what that is, but Federico is working on it and looking at it. So we're going to make sure that all of DXDAO's products, not just Rails, but all of them have this ability to work in this future way of people using Web3 injection. I think it is. So it's a little bit technical, but once you have Rails on your phone in a Web3 browser, and it's layer 2, easy, fast money sending and all that kind of stuff, like then we are approaching like permissionless, decentralized crypto Venmo, which is something that doesn't really exist and not many people use, and this approaches that experience, which is pretty cool.
I was going to just ask everyone here if there is ever going to be something that works better than MetaMask that can actually transfer over to Web 2. So Rails is going to be that?
You mean sending money around to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's effectively what Rails is, and it's running on a layer 2, and it's basically free transfers of ETH and ERC20 tokens at this point, and it's going to be open to anyone with a Ethereum wallet, even if they don't have a layer 2 wallet. So
yeah, because I've been looking at the kind of like who's kind of leading this transfer over to like Web 2 users, and Rarible had made Top Shop with the NBA. So when you actually like go in there, you can actually pay for the NFTs with credit cards. So I was just wondering what everyone had thought about that. And it's kind of like this, if people like, so the NBA fans can actually come in and buy them there, but then there's another window there where they can have the opportunity to actually learn about crypto and getting involved. So this can all tie into, these educational content pieces with Status and Simona, because she's very passionate about this, as well as everyone here. I think it's really important. She had touched on, we're not making this ecosystem to create a version 2 of Wall Street. So if we can get some more info and stuff on Rails, we should add it into the educational content.
I think it's super important to think about how we expand the user base kind of beyond what understands crypto now. And the
DXdao definitely has this in mind, and one of the I think the product that would be leading with is like, if we can make we once Omen is on DXdao, we have the opportunity to basically make it a dollar focused betting application that like your friend who knows nothing about crypto could enter that and bet on a game or whatever and think in dollars because it's DXdao based, and we could, and it's fast and easy, so that we have a goal to make that experience an experience that someone who doesn't know anything about crypto could use Omen on DXdao and doesn't need ETH and anything like that. So, but Rails and these other products also. So, but DXdao definitely should keep this in mind. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I think thinking of Rails as a Venmo, like crypto Venmo, is a cool way to conceptualize it. And I wanted to also bring up, it's a different angle, slightly different kind of idea, but also with Omen today, you can use Ethereum to log in, and there's even like still, I think, sponsored gas transactions happening. So you can actually get some free gas, get your gas costs covered on some transactions on Omen if you use Ethereum. And their whole, I think, mission is to sort of offer a login experience that resembles Web 2, where you can use email and a password, and you don't have to worry about seed phrases and that kind of thing. And you can also use, I think you can also use credit cards with Ethereum, if I remember correctly.
They have some partnerships embedded, and this week I will be publishing an update on probably on the forum at first for like the experiment that we have done with Omen and Ethereum and sponsored gas transactions. It times up the last couple of weeks with the election, but there are some wins. So, and we can learn from it. We're probably going to need a Dune / data analysis, on-chain data analysis, an analyzer expert to dig into like some of the deeper stats. But the high-level information will be shared, and then we can dig in even deeper based on the on-chain data. So maybe we might need a bounty or someone from the community who is really good with Dune to help with that.
Yeah, I think maybe we can reach out to Calvin again, who had done the first one. I know that we'd added him in the Keybase. Actually, he said to me on Telegram that he can't get into his Keybase account. But I also think it's very interesting, the idea of working with Ethereum more on Rails. I imagine, there could be like some kind of a cooperation we're doing with Omen. I wonder if there's something we can keep that in mind with Ethereum as they kind of grow.
Yeah. Like that, yeah, that would actually be, because right now I don't know of a way to, create an account with ID, with email and password and use Rails. But they probably have that ability. So we can look at that.
I mean, potentially even kind of going straight from credit card to like feeless payment transfers powered by Rails. That's kind of a neat flow. I mean, obviously there's finding the market is another story, but pretty neat idea.
I think a good example too of how like partnering and working with a group on one thing that is complementary, and how that can like maybe develop into something more in a different area. But both with Status and Ethereum, I think are both kind of looking for those complementary partners.
Yeah, I think where things get especially interesting with DXdao is how the suite of products start to play with each other and how the partnerships start to work across different products, which is pretty cool. And I think kind of the last product covered today is DXSwap. I can give a little update on the smart contract side, and then I'll hand it over to Zet for the UI, and maybe Chris can also kind of then segue into some of the other stuff about the governance and also what's been happening with DXSwap there. So on the smart contract side, the relayer audit, no, this is not necessary for the initial launch, but is necessary for providing liquidity from the DXdao treasury into DXSwap. That audit has been received and the findings are now being addressed. And so that should be wrapping up and ready to go shortly, which also clears the way for the scheme or plugin, if you will, that is the connection between DXdao and the relayer itself. And then on the core contracts, those have been audited or set. But one incremental thing was done this week and is just going to be tested starting tomorrow, and that is actually separating out the where the profits from the protocol go. Instead of going directly to the avatar, they'll go to this intermediary contract, and that contract will be responsible for taking the profits, which are in the form of liquidity provider tokens from DXSwap. So these are a bunch of LP tokens from literally every pair that has a fee on DXSwap will be aggregating here, and that contract will have the functionality to liquidate, convert to ETH, and then send that ETH to a buyback reserve in the bonding curve or DX Trust, if you know it by that name. So that's all looking good. I think kind of final round of testing on RigB for that stuff starting tomorrow for the core stuff, and then relayer in the next couple of weeks, I think. Zet, do you want to kind of give us a quick update on the UI?
Yes. So we are currently working on the theming for DXSwap, and that means we are working on the dark mode of DXSwap. We are a bit not behind, but I thought we were gonna finish some stuff, but it's pool and liquidity views and the models left for the theming, and then also I split up the theming for so light mode is a separate issue, and we're gonna disable light mode for first version and release it as a separate version. So that's about it.
Oh man, I like light mode. Sometimes I feel like the only one.
I don't admit
yeah.
all the ridicule you get for
The stigma,
being
especially in
called out.
developer communities. Yeah, it's terrible. All right, Chris, on the some of the governance stuff that's kind of late breaking here on DXSwap.
Yeah, I mean, so it's such an interesting process, kind of everything obviously iterating out in the open and how things kind of move with the community and move move with the market. So there's kind of been a lot of discussion over the last couple of weeks on a bunch of different ideas kind of related to launch and like how it'll evolve going forward. I think it's kind of starting off with there is a proposal to set the default fee at 0.25%, which would be an update to the previous Signal proposal launched in mid-September. That's to make it a little bit more appealing to DXD LPs as we kind of look to encourage and incentivize them to bring their DXD liquidity over to DXSwap rather than kind of provide the DXDAO provide liquidity at the current rates. The thinking on this, and I'm working on some kind of a document that we can kind of iterate to on this. And then the thinking on that is trying to encourage people to get DXD liquidity then, and then the DXDAO signaling that it will if it does not get a certain amount of liquidity by a certain amount, that the treasury itself will supply liquidity, and then also creating an omen market for that to kind of signal to that way. And it'll be a good way of kind of, I think, interacting and encouraging DXD holders to move over their liquidity without, and kind of using another omen product, one of our products. Simultaneously, we're getting more interesting around kind of going back to kind of the wrapped ideas, thinking about how we can kind of incentivize liquidity more broadly in DXSwap, using Omen as a basically like a conditional token yield farming. So imagine DXDAO creates a market on Omen that says the GNO ETH pool will be this size on this date, and basically funds it like a bounty, right? And then creates the yes shares. And so you have the yes shares that say it will be above, say, $100,000, and then you issue that yes share to DXSwap LPs that are in the GNO ETH pool. So it kind of gives them an incentive to keep their liquidity in there. So that's kind of an idea we're playing with, and I think we're getting around to that. There's also some other incentive ideas, and I think we're hopefully we'll talk about it tomorrow to give a little preview. We'll talk more about it tomorrow on the DXSwap strategy call, and then we'll kind of hopefully put that into something that can kind of communicate it better to the community.
And another thing I think we can cover tomorrow as well in more detail is the kind of technical steps that on like the the roadmap you had outlined already for DXSwap. For instance, like there's 2 proposals will be required, like one for the core contracts basically, and one for the DApp itself. So we'll dig into details of that tomorrow in the DXSwap call. And just because we're kind of running short on time here, I think before we go to the BizDev and governance calls, I wanted to see if we could touch real quickly on the DXdao deployment. I don't know if Nylon, you are tuned in here.
I'm here.
Hey.
Yes. So lots of talks and decisions on basically Arc 1, Arc 2 type stuff. I don't know if people here are fully updated, but Arc 2 is sort of like a new version. And we're now kind of debating like which one should we focus on right now. If we should, if we're focusing on Arc 1 right now, should we focus later on Arc 2? Like lots of different questions, but I guess for right now, we are focusing on Arc 1. Most of the development is being done there. For example, like the multi-generic scheme that could be used on mainnet, and then we'll basically deploy. So after a bunch of issues with the DXdao deployment, we'll redeploy the DXdao, and it will be on Arc 1. Basically, the code will be compatible with the mainnet DAO. So yeah, any questions regarding that?
So I think one way to look at it is there's inertia kind of to the DXdao on mainnet, right? Because for one thing, we have all our funds and everything tied up in it. But also there's been some custom scheme development on mainnet that I think ideally we'd like to use on DXdao, right? So the compatibility issues there between 1 and 2 would maybe be an argument for just doing a deployment of Arc 1 on DXdao. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's correct. I will say that, like, I guess this relates to more strategic questions to do with the DXdao. If we're talking about like governance 2.0 and that type of stuff, then that will have to be a different platform or a different code base. In that regard, I actually think that like the way I see things is that the DXdao itself, right now, the code base that we're using right now will probably forever remain as the main place, the main treasury, etc. And the way I see it, maybe it will be more than one avatar and inside one DAO, and then the challenge here would be UX. But this is like going into details, which yeah, are kind of
we're not going to solve all the technical problems of governance 2.0 in 9 minutes, but yeah, I do think the point is interesting that like you could basically roll, any advancements that could come from ARC2 could potentially be rolled with a move to governance 2.0, so that there isn't, so there'd be just one big migration if necessary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe that Treasury DAO or like DXdao will not actually
Or you don't need to
move. Because I think, like at the end of the day, the parameter for security is how long has the contract held funds. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess we'll look for updates on the XDAI, and that's awesome because it can support the Omen and Mesa efforts, and their lists and whatnot, as well as other things we might want to do on XDAI. To go with the time remaining, just to the other calls that we had this week. Ingomar is not on the call, so maybe we could just cover. It's escaping me at the minute. If anybody wants to recap the BizDev call and what was discussed, I think a lot of it actually was about DXswap, right?
DXswap, yeah. It was like the same conversation,
So
or
maybe
a continuation. Yeah.
I'll hand it over to you then, Chris. So
yeah. I mean, I think we kind of discovered most of the DXswap stuff there. As I said, it's kind of been conversation developing each day, so there's a good chunk of it on there. Then just the governance, or not swap. And then the governance stuff, just to kind of quickly go over here on the governance 1.0 stuff. Another kind of further discussion on the community rep boost. I'm going to make a post about encouraging people to submit proposals that are in that. And then we had a good discussion on compensation or worker proposal process and the potential volatility for workers who are just trying to get paid, and whether or not they're trying to buy ETH low or high. So some discussion on trying to get DAI as payments in DAI eventually. The gas refunds round number 1 is up. There's a post by Nico if you need to get claim and get a refund for your gas. Sky had done a walkthrough in the previous version. Kind of discussed the XDAI stuff from Elon there. And then lastly, governance 2.0 stuff, not exactly on this call, but we had the first kickoff call on Tuesday for this working group. I thought it went pretty well, a lot of discussion, a lot of great perspectives of people on, I'd say we kind of tried to put the context of how we got to this point, and just remember the kind of core mission of the governance 2.0 group is to try to figure out some long-term alignment between DXD and DXD holders and rep holders. And one of the kind of key themes, I think, in that discussion was how it's not so much that there was a previous plan for how these things would be aligned. It was more of they kind of both emerged in their own organic way, and we're trying to really kind of reconcile them for the first time. So good discussion on that. There's a Notion board that's linked to in the governance discussion agenda that you can check out. And then we're now working on the kind of first document we're working on that we're going to try to narrow down is basically like the inputs or the requirements for some type of reconciliation process between the DXD and rep holders. And so I don't know if there's anyone else that was on the call had anything else to add or comments or questions from others.
I guess not. Any other updates on the governance side or the?
I think that was it. I mean, there's some proposals. There's a good number of proposals. A couple worker proposals, like a reimbursement for some things, and then audit. I can't remember. And then the DXswap changing the fee.
One related thing to governance and community is So the Panvala round that happened during Gitcoin Grants, that last round, on Halloween, the distributions from the Panvala system were paid out. So like a matching of 69,000 extra pan, and it was basically a total raise of 85,000 pan, which at today's price, the price came down a little bit. It's about $4,500. And that's distributed to the 10 winners of the DeFi community, DXdao DeFi Community Awards. It was distributed yesterday, and I'm putting together an article summarizing it. And like all the award winners so far I've reached out to all of them. They also all received a non-fungible trophy, and they're all really happy with what they've received. One of the guy who won Richard, who won the DeFi Design Awards, who makes like logos and things, he was so psyched that he may be helping design the NFT for like the next round, or maybe for another awards program that DXdao or DeFi community does. And so it's cool to see like award winners that now want to get involved in something future project related to DXdao and the greater DeFi community. So that was kind of the idea of the whole thing, is DXdao having leading a voice in the DeFi space, and it's a win-win-win situation for most parties involved. It's good for DXdao brand awareness. I think it doesn't get it's not like a monetary thing for DXdao, but it's been pretty cool. It was a little bit of a delay because the payments don't come out, but once I publish this article, maybe we can tweet it out or something too. I was gonna do a forum post, but it would be cool to put it on a Medium post or something if we have that ability. So that's an update on that.
Very cool.
Just makes me think of an idea when you say that. There's been some discussion about having kind of like a community strategy meeting, like product strategy meeting, how we kind of get input from the community. And it would also be cool to even like do an awards, I don't know, ceremony or something, if we could roll it into that and kind of like at least recognize those people during that time. And maybe this could like bubble up into some type of virtual community event that we could do. I think it would require some organizing and whatnot, but some ideas maybe.
Yeah, one idea is that we could have we could display those awards in crypto voxels in a building, and have the meetup. Crypto voxels is very easy to meet up, and you just do it from your browser, so everyone can come and meet up in a DXdao Crypto Voxels event, and with the award and all the award winners and the trophies are displayed on the walls.
But that's virtually, just to make
it's better than this, what we're doing right now, because you can actually like walk around and talk to each other.
I like Jitsi.
Can you mute anybody in Crypto Voxels? I mean, that's the real question.
I know.
I think that point, Chris, about the product strategy is a big one. That's a big question. Like if, I think a lot of the momentum so far, the product, a lot of that stuff was sort of readily available because when DXdao launched, Gnosis had just launched a couple of things, that teed up basically Omen and Mesa, and then DXSwap was an idea from like the early days and the folks involved there. And so now it's like, how is the grander product strategy going to be set? Something like Rails was sort of a gift. It was like given by Loopring, and so yeah, we'll have to figure out. I guess it's up to the community to kind of figure out how we make the grander product strategy going forward. Like, what does DXdao work on next? Where does it focus?
Yeah, and I think like the important thing, or like what we can try to do, is always like, what are the inputs we can have? Like, how can we increase like different types of signals, ideas, kind of inputs. We already have like kind of these, and something like this, I think, would be another way of like providing a venue or forum for more inputs.
Yeah, I don't think there's like really good precedent out there for like a DAO making like product strategy decisions in any kind of decentralized way, right? Like you're typically reliant on a team or some group, small group to kind of just make the decisions, right? So, I mean, even Ethereum, right? Like you're almost like relying on the foundation or whatever for ETH2 and or a few
and
people.
I think there should be something that's not just like the decentralized group of people making a decision about it, but there is something like organic or life form to understanding the products and like responding to how the products are developing and moving, and like that kind of, you know, what is like a herd movement or something. This, I guess, what we're trying to figure out how to do.
Yeah, maybe we could put something on the calendar to talk about that, or talk about it in the next governance call. I don't know what your docket's looking like these days.
Yeah. Well, now we have on the docket to change the day or the time.
Just the day.
Yeah. I think that's not a bad. We could. I mean, in reality, I think we're like kind of getting to the point where we really do need to think about like kind of our meeting strategy and things going forward, and even maybe just thinking about like broadly like 2021. If we're gonna do these things, I think it's important not to switch that much, have some like structure to it, but also like not require people to, I don't know, maybe the same time thing needs to get a little bit more complex.
The challenges of a global community are real. And yeah, I think we might have to be a little creative on how to accommodate that. Yeah, I don't know. Splitting the calls, rotating the calls, having multiple calls. I'm not sure, but something. Okay, cool. We're a little over the hour. Anything else anyone wants to bring up?
Just like congrats to Omen group team again. This is kind of a sweet. I mean, it was like just fun watching it, and kind of like literally I was looking at Omen to be like, what's the signal from Omen in the last couple of days? And like, I don't know, I'm a media, I consume a lot of content, and it was like a real signal over the last couple of days.
Yeah, like I was at first like, oh shit, prediction markets are still so like niche, and the signals they are sending are not correct. Like I bet on no, so I bet on Trump will win, and now it's like, wow,
it just means
it's
you're
actually
wrong. It doesn't mean prediction.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, okay, wait, that was a proper signal. Like in my bubble, most of like everyone was skeptical about the world consensus. Like everyone is thought Trump will win, and it's like still unclear, but it seems like he lost, which is like, I mean, I did the bet primarily because like this okay, another 4 fucking years, but at least I got some money out of it. But like I wasn't actually like, I wasn't sad when I lost the money. It's like, oh my god, it actually happened. Trump lost.
That's quite common. Emotional hedging. People do that like in NFL betting all the time. They bet on the other team.
It's a fantasy too. Never draft your own like favorite team player.
Well, I would point out that it's not over yet either. We don't really know the outcome. I think it's a little early to actually feel too confident one way or the other. And yeah, those of us who are old enough Americans to remember 2000 can remember things can come down to the courts in the end, and there's already a whole bunch of legal challenges being mounted. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah, what's the next big event is like, so there's ETH2 markets now, which everyone should check out that's listening to this call.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some question too now, like, so the deposit contract's live, right? So what's up next is really whether it reaches the threshold, right? There's a threshold it needs to reach before the beacon chain can go live.
Yeah. And interestingly, those two markets that show that currently, now there's not a lot of people trading it yet, maybe more will trade it soon, but currently it implies that if staking is reached, ETH price will go lower.
We'll say that again.
That's interesting. Like,
Yeah,
why?
there's a USDC market and a ETH and a wrapped ETH market. The way it's trading right now, given the the way Martin does the calculation, it's implying that if staking is reached, ETH price will go down, so it might just be because not enough people have traded them yet. So we'll give it a couple weeks.
I'm not sure. So the examples that Martin gave were two markets that were talking